All right, so yeah, welcome everyone. I'm so glad you could make it. This is our official webinar with our matching candidates, and we're really excited to share the next stage of the program with you. As a brief introduction, I'm Michelle. You might have seen my face in the previous webinars before. I'm one of the co-managers of the program, and I ran the recruitment campaigns. So I'm very excited that you guys could make it through to this stage. And then I'd like to hand over the mic to my colleague, Ava, and she'll also give us a brief introduction.
Hi, hello, welcome everybody. Great to see you all here. As Michelle said, we're both together the program managers, and we are stationed in at the Vrije Universiteit in Amsterdam. But it's a program that we work on behalf of all the universities that you also come from. We do this together with the Consulate General in San Francisco, and this is our colleague Deborah, who we work with.
Hi everyone, we're excited to have you here and to see what questions you have in store for us.
And then last but not least, we have a guest speaker from the NAF. So Maggie, and if you could just briefly introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, my name is Maggie Maloney. I work at the Netherland-America Foundation in New York City, and I will be talking a bit more about the visa process later on today.
Amazing. Okay. All right. So I think we've admitted everyone. So I will share my screen and then we can get going because it's a packed schedule today. All right, so as you can see, this is the agenda for today. So I will be giving you a bit of an overview of what the timeline is going to look like for this matching process now, and then we'll have a chat about the Dutch2USA program and the J1 visa process, and then we'll get to your questions. So skip slide, quick housekeeping. The rules are pretty basic. I'm sure you know them all by now. If you have any questions, please drop them into the Q&A. If you have any urgent questions, particularly at the end, please raise your hand. Please stay muted unless we say otherwise. And know that it's recorded and we will be sharing this afterwards. And yes, at the end particularly, it'd be great if we can interact. We'd love to get to know you at this stage because this is the matching stage. So if you are comfortable to share your thoughts in person, that'd be great as well. All right. So I'm sure you guys are keen to see some numbers. So this is a quick overview of our selection pool. So and a bit more actually. So we've decided that we'll we have a matching pool and a waiting list pool. The matching pool is just short of 100 students, and then the waiting list is approximately 60. The selection pool is made up of mostly master's students, and then a small fraction is master's graduates and PhD candidates. And some of you were asking about what type of specialization a lot of you come from. So we've had predominantly science students, then economics and business, and then engineering. So if you want to know your fellow candidates, that's kind of the pool that we made up of. And here's a second quick overview just to give you an idea of what your fellow candidates, when they would like to start their internship. And most of you guys are interested in summer internships, which matches well with us as well. All right, now that that's out of the way, I promised you a quick update on Mentorjam. So we used that initially for the application process, and since then we've been quite quiet. So the take home is that we're actually launched, they're moving across to a new platform. And what that means is that you'll be getting a message from us in the near future to move across, migrate to the new platform. It'll probably, we should migrate all the information across. If that's not the case, we'll communicate that with you. But in the interim, it's very important. Our primary form of communication with you is going to be via email. So please, I've asked for a Google form so that you use your updated email address. All of you filled out that Google form, which is perfect. That's the email address that we will be communicating with you in the next coming while. Then the next point is, do you want to update your CV? Then we would encourage that if you have particularly any new experience or anything, or you still aren't completely in the correct US standard format. So you maybe have a photo still or some personal information. Anyway, that will give you an opportunity after this webinar to re-upload your CV. We're going to keep quite a strict deadline on that because otherwise I'm going to have to keep on checking. I see a raised hand. Dovidas, do you have a question for me?
Yeah, I have a question about personal information. Is it fine that you have a LinkedIn link and email address?
Yeah, so by personal information, it's pretty much name, email, LinkedIn. So I don't want to know your location. I don't want to know your phone number. And I don't want to know your age, for example. So it's like, that's the basics.
Okay, so only these, yeah, only name and surname and email and LinkedIn and nothing else.
Exactly, yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
perfect.
If you have any questions or doubts, we're also just pop us an email and we'll confirm with you.
If I may quickly chime in here, we also have a resource for that on our website with guidelines for a US resume. It's mainly no picture, no direct information about your ethnicity, nationality, your age, your gender. You don't make those things public in an American resume. LinkedIn link and email address obviously encouraged, but no personal address either, just email address. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, and then so to kind of round off with Mentorjam, so we'll be migrating to the new platform, and then from then on, the main purpose is to organize, announce, and host online in-person events. So the idea is to create a group of you guys eventually, if you are matched, so that we can communicate with you, that you can form a community as well. But besides that, we'll also be providing resources, further resources for you to be prepared for living and working in the US. So that'll become more of an element later on. And then we just want to kind of emphasize, because at this point of the matching procedure, your CV is gold. That's what we use to advertise you to our companies. So please, 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 if you haven't already and are doubting whether you should re-upload, make sure that you tick all these boxes. We find the short summary of yourself useful. It's not a must though. But one of the key things that we need is these 2 points. So a concrete description of your achievements or job positions and a clear overview of your skills. So if you don't have that, look at your CV again, question yourself if you don't. If you're unsure, you can always email us. But that's, please, please, please make sure that that is solid. All right, the next is the matching timeline and the procedure in general, and I'll hand over the mic to Deborah, who will explain it in a little bit more detail.
Definitely. So as Eva mentioned, I work at the consulate in San Francisco, and I'm really excited to see you all very soon, hopefully here in the Bay Area with us. In terms of the guidelines, so indeed, or the timeline rather, we encourage you to send your updated resume as soon as possible. If a resume has a picture on it, it's very hard for us to share that with a company. So just be aware of that. If you want to speed up your own timeline, please invest in double checking the requirements. Once we have been able to send your resume to companies based upon, what they're looking for and your skill set, we hear back from the company if you are, if they're interested or if they decline you at that point in time. This process with some companies, we get the answer back within a day. With some others, it takes up to a month to hear back. Usually, I would say on average 2 weeks. Then we hear back from the company which students they want to move forward with, and those students will be invited for their intake procedure. This also depends a bit from company to company. Some companies really only have one intake interview. Some others will have intake interviews with their direct manager, with the CEO, with the entire executive team. And some others will also have a few assessment tasks that they will require you to do. So overall, I would say this intake procedure for each company takes from 1 week up to another 2-3 weeks time. And then once the company decides to move forward with you, you will be able to negotiate your contract with them. We do have a few minimum requirements that we ask of companies. The companies will also be aware of that, including we want them to ensure that you have a solid income to survive in the Bay Area in a comfortable way. If you have received a contract or if you have any questions, please reach out to us so we can make sure that the contract that you sign is along the guidelines of our program. And then once we have received the signed contract from you, then we can move forward and we will put you in touch with Maggie, who's here on the call, to get your visa application process started. Overall, this timeline from resume sent to visa application, in very quick cases, it could go in 1 week time. On average, I think we should definitely expect a month up to 6 weeks for this particular point. We are committed to matching 26 students this year, about 2 for each university on average. That's our goal. And the latest internship start date for this batch of students will be December 2022. Start dates are pretty flexible depending on you, depending on the companies. About 50% of our students will probably be engaging in what we call summer internships. So start date from mid or end May up until end date end of September. I think that is about it on my end for this slide. We also encourage you to be proactive in your outreach. So we have partners that we work with that are confirmed. We are also expanding our portfolio independently, also based on the input that you've given us in the Google Forms. Thank you for that. We are looking at that. We are following up with those companies and seeing who we have within our network. We will also share a pre-prepared text with you that you can share with companies that you're interested in yourself as well. We encourage you to do this either via email or via LinkedIn, and then keep us in the loop. We do ask that you get back to us along each step of the process for a check-in so we can keep track of where you are in the process and we can assist you in every way. Next slide. Then at this point, I would really like to hand it over to Maggie Maloney, the program manager at the Netherland-America Foundation, who holds all wisdom with regard to the J1 visa application procedure and also with regard to the Dekker-Padget fund. So without any further ado, Maggie, take it away.
Thank you so much for having us today. We're really excited to partner with Internships in the Valley. So like Deborah said, my name is Maggie. I am the program manager at the Netherland-America Foundation, which we refer to as the NAF. If you're unfamiliar with our organization, we seek to foster business, cultural, and educational exchange between the Netherlands and the US. And in that vein, we have a number of programs that I oversee. So I would like to talk about 2 today. The first is the visa process. And the second is the Dutch2USA Dekker-Padget internship program. So we'll start with the visa process. So you might have some preconceived notions of what getting a visa might entail. You might think it is overwhelming, complex, very bureaucratic, but I would like to let you know that you have a degree of control over this process. So I'm just going to go through a few frequently asked questions that people have. And I will have a lot of information that I can say in a brief amount of time. So again, if you have questions, I'll be on the chat after this. So the first, everyone always asks me how long it takes to secure a visa. Unfortunately, I don't have a time frame that I can share. There are so many parties involved, like us at the NAF, you, your host company, the consulate, the US government, that it's very hard to say, oh, a visa will take you 3 months start to end. So you must be attentive to this process and also have a degree of flexibility going into it so you know what to expect. Additionally, we sponsor the J1 visa for the intern and trainee categories. So an intern is probably everyone here. You are in university, you very recently graduated. A trainee is someone who may or may not have a degree from university, but they do have a decent amount of professionally paid experience. So for this purpose, I'll really be focusing on the intern category. The next is insurance. So if you go through the NAF for a visa, you will receive insurance. This is mostly based on unforeseen circumstances or accidents. It's not really related to checkups at the doctor or anything. So you should be going in with having all of your appointments at your doctor and your dentist before you come to the US. Okay, thank you. So first steps. So the NAF must initiate the application. So that does not require a lot of work. We just need to know a few basic details about you, your name, your last name, your birth date, and your preferred email. Once we put that in, you will receive a welcome email. You'll be invited to create an account and you will fill out your application. So this is a screenshot right here of an application. It's very simple. Haven't heard of a lot of confusion surrounding the application itself. You're listing your personal information, contact, work experience, if you've ever received a visa, and a few documents that I can guide you through, but it's very simple. Also, when you start your application, you should invite your host company to complete a training plan. This is formerly known as a DS-7002 in the US government. So this will be for your host company supervisor to complete. They will provide some general numbers like revenue, they will provide their address, but then they will also provide the training plan that you will follow to make sure that this is an actual educational opportunity that falls under the J1 visa. They don't want to sponsor something that is just, you doing administrative work day in, day out. They want this to be a meaningful experience that you can bring back to the Netherlands. So those are the first steps that I would say you have a degree of control over. And we'll go on to the next slide, Michelle. So once all of that is in, you will just let me know. We will have probably worked together on a number of questions you have at that point, and I will review it. I will make sure everything looks good and I will submit it. I will submit this to the visa sponsor. That is called CIEE, or the Council on International Educational Exchange. So this is the company that we work with to sponsor these visas, and they will be the ones to really review it and be your ultimate sponsor when you're in the US. So a few notes on that. This is another part where I get a question of how long is the review period. So CIEE aims to have the review of your visa application done in 2 weeks. There are a number of factors that might change this. If your host company has never hosted an intern before, they might have to make a site visit and just go and make sure that everything is okay and up to code with your organization. However, this could be pretty quick. If your host company has hosted interns in the past under this visa, they might just be able to make a few calls, confirm your internship there, and approve. So the next step is approval or denial. Approval means that CIEE is willing to sponsor you and says, yes, I'm willing to sponsor this intern. This is a valuable internship opportunity that they have in the US. Everything looks good. Denial is much more rare. At that point, I would be able to flag something, CIEE would be able to flag something that wouldn't quite add up. So, for example, there are some categories that the J1 visa at the NAF we can't support. That has to do with doctors, nurses, teachers, anyone who has direct care over someone. But I think, Michelle, when you shared that slide about companies and industries, a lot of these are science and business. That's much less apt to apply to something like this. So after ideally approval, you will receive the DS 2019. So here is another government lingo. This means that this is your certificate of eligibility. This allows you to go to the consulate and ask for a visa. So it will be printed and it will be sent to me at the NAF to review it. I will make sure it looks good, sign off on it, and then I will send it to the address you have provided on the application. And then once you receive that, you can now make your appointment at the consulate. So I think this is the biggest hurdle that people fall into, is getting an appointment. A few months ago, because of COVID issues and the backlog, the appointment wait time in Amsterdam was a few months long. I looked at it today and it's gone down significantly. It's 44 days, which might sound like a lot, but it has gone down recently. So this is just good news to keep moving forward. I think that's all I have to say about making an appointment at the consulate. You need some documents, but we can chat about that as we get closer, but it's fairly simple. Again, I do really want to stress being flexible, going into this, understanding what it's all about, and being attentive to this as well. Nearly everyone I've worked with for a visa has been quite attentive. We have a lot of documents that might explain additional questions you might have, and the general review process. But that is about it. And ideally at the consulate, you will then be approved for a visa unless they flag something that is very big. But again, if it's gone through this many channels, the likelihood of that is kind of low. Okay, so that was 5 minutes on the visa. I could spend a lot more time. I'm sure you have a lot of questions. I see a lot popping up. But I do want to move on to our Dutch2USA internship program. And again, I'll be on the chat for the remainder of this webinar. So feel free to directly chat me and I'll try to address some questions I see popping up. So I'd love to talk about the Dekker-Padget Dutch2USA internship program. We refer to this as Dutch2USA internally. I'm really happy to see that a lot of people want to apply. You have a lot of time to apply to this. I'll explain what it is in a moment, but I hope to see all these applications in. This makes me very happy. Okay, so this program is really the flagship program of the NAF. We provide high achieving, low income Dutch students with the opportunity, financial support to pursue professional internships in the US. If you scan this QR code, you'll be directed towards our application platform. But this is really meant for students who would otherwise not be able to complete an internship in the US without significant financial hardship. So the deadline to apply is March 31st. And here is just a list of general eligibility. As you can see, it's pretty flexible. We're really focused on high achieving, which means that you have a singular focused vision for your career and what you'd like it to be. And also low income, which plays a pretty big part in this as well. I think I said this earlier, but we really want to break down the barriers of completing an internship to provide a boost to your professional career. So this is a general eligibility. I can answer some questions in the chat, but it's pretty simple. The application is really easy to complete and you do have quite a few weeks to complete it. You don't have a fee to complete this application. You can make an account and come back to it, save it as a draft. You don't have to complete it in one go. So try and make it as accessible as possible. Okay, so some questions that you submitted previously. So does the J1 visa require its holder to spend 2 years outside of the US after the internship program has ended? For the purposes of the visa through the NAF, yes. This J1 visa requires you to, at the end of your visa term, to go back to the Netherlands and spend 2 years outside of the US. So the difference between a J1 and J2. So a J1 is you, the intern. A J2 is any legal dependents that you may have, such as your spouse or your child. This J2 can also be covered under the visa application, but I haven't really seen it come up too much.
I have a raised hand from Rahel.
Okay.
Maybe it's related to one of these questions, so it'd be useful.
Sure.
Jump in, Rahel.
Yeah, actually, it is related to the first one. Does this only, like being outside of the US for 2 years, at least only apply for working visas? Because I, for example, also have a visitor, like a volunteer visa still, which is valid for another 10 years or 5 years or so. Like, do you know anything about it? Is it basically you cannot enter the US anymore at all for 2 years?
So I think there's a visa waiver program that you would have to look into. We don't deal too much with the visa process when the J1 is complete. So I would just encourage you maybe try and Google visa waiver program and see if your specific visa would apply.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
Also a similar question for question one. Let's say after doing the J1 visa, can you still travel to US as a tourist?
So meaning that do you have a different nationality other than Dutch? Is that, oh, sorry, you mean like going on holiday in the US?
Yeah, that's it, yeah.
I would need to find the answer to that. I am not sure if that is the case, but I would like to get back to you about that. From what I've seen, you do have to be away from the US for 2 years. Again, this might be something of a visa waiver program to look into. But I'd have to get a response. If you could just chat me your email, that would be great.
I
would
private.
Maggie, can I quickly chime in as well? From my understanding, the 2-year rule applies when there's federal grant money involved in a program, as our program is not funded by US federal funding, as opposed to, for example, Fulbright program. The 2-year rule should not apply for the students that have received the funding purely from their companies and not by means of any additional scholarship that might include the federal funding. So if you apply for multiple scholarships to fund your stay, then it might maybe apply. But if you go through our program and you don't apply for any US federal funding, then in fact the 2-year rule should not apply. And then if I could also add, but Maggie, feel free to chime in and whistle me back here. But at any point in time, when you come to the US, you need to be able to show the required documentation. So also as a tourist, you will be required to have a valid ESTA at that point in time after you have completed your internship duration. So at that point in time, you would need to apply again for an ESTA, and you would also need to pass that process before entering the US again.
And I would also encourage, if you have an attorney you could speak to about this, they might have a stronger explanation, especially with the COVID situation going on.
All right, do we have any more questions regarding this? Otherwise, I'll move on. All right, take that as a no. Third question.
Yes, PhD students can apply. So I didn't touch on this, but the application process goes like this. So you apply on our website. We just review it to make sure you're eligible for something like this, which I'm sure most people on this call would be. PhD students are absolutely welcome to. We want to see a lot of applications. And then if you're eligible, you will be, the selection committee will take a look at your application. They will invite you to an interview, and then the results are go from there.
Great.
Okay, so the income section, yes, we do ask for information about your parents' income, but this specific questionnaire says, as a PhD student, I consider myself single family. Asking about your parents' income is really just because a lot of these people applying sometimes live with their parents, or they still are dependent on their parents. So I would answer that as yourself, any questions about the parents. There is a section in the very end of the application where you can upload additional materials. So if you could just write a general brief overview of your financial situation, the fact that you're a single family, that would just allow us to understand your situation further.
And the last question.
Okay, so one of the eligibility requirements is that without the grant, you don't have the sufficient financial resources to fund your internship. So what do we mean by not sufficient? There are no hard and fast rules to this because we know everyone's situation is so different and nuanced. For the most part, meaning not sufficient is that you don't have family that can easily fund this without any hardships. We really want to break down the barriers of people who don't otherwise have the opportunity to complete an internship. So, and I want to go back to that too. So the total grant award can be up to $7,400 US. That can be different from person to person. So I'd say like at the highest need-based people might get that award, which might break it down to about $1,000 a month monthly stipend. However, if we see that your situation has been difficult in the past and you are improving, the selection committee might decide to give you a smaller grant, so perhaps about $3,000 US. It just kind of depends. So having a wide financial picture of your background, your family's background, if relevant, would just be really helpful. And then in the interview stage as well, you will be asked to clarify a bit more. So you have a lot of opportunities to explain your situation, but we don't really have like exact numbers to say like, no, this person makes this much money, so they can't do this. But the highest grants are really awarded to people who do really need something like this in order to complete.
I have a question about it, if I may ask now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because that was like a question, that question actually interested me a lot, because I'm a student here and I don't have any source of income because I do not work, I only study and my family supports me. However, I have to be honest, I haven't read the whole format of the Dekker-Padget application, but what exactly is he requested for me to submit? Like, how can I prove that I have no sufficient means to support an eventual internship in the States?
So we do have like a budget that you can fill out, and apply any sources of income that you might have. You can upload like proof of income PDFs, but I think a lot of that really does have to do with the interview stage where you can explain this. I would just say, like, if you can upload as many documents as you can to show that you do or do not have income, but also you can explain it. There's like a question essay, so you can explain the financial need that you have in there as well.
I have no way to have a proof of income if I have no job and no income, so I don't know how to prove it.
I would just state that. Yeah, I don't exactly know if that's come up before, but the interview stage really does allow the selection committee to understand it further. But since you have no proof, I mean, there's not really much you can submit anyway.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so we have
this topic. Can I also ask something? Sorry.
Sure, no. Just make sure you raise your hand so I can see you.
Yeah, unfortunately, I cannot find that, I guess, because I'm not through the, let's say, official platform.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I was just wondering if the proof of your income is at this time or at the time when you will have the internship. So like in my case, I will do the internship after my PhD contract would expire. So it's kind of no sense for me to submit like my income at this moment because I won't have any income. So on this, to me, it's not completely clear.
Sure. So so just to repeat back, you, at the time of application, you can't really submit a proof of income, but do you know, are you asking if you're going to get paid for your internship, if you should discuss that?
No, I mean, like when let's say apply for this grant, it's asked to me to prove my income, but what's the point of proving my actual income if when I will do the internship, I will not have this income anymore? I mean, I can also rather upload my contract that will end when the internship will take place, because otherwise it will show like I have an income, which is kind of not true when the internship will take place.
Yeah, so we have other questions too to ask about your background and your previous earnings. So I would just upload that document. The more information that we have to form a complete picture, the better.
Okay,
so
thank you.
Okay, yeah, does that answer your question?
Yeah, so we can drop all documents that allow you to have a better overview.
And yeah, you can submit a lot of documents in the application.
All right, Lara, so you might have a question. Otherwise, I would like to move on because we still have a lot of questions to cover related to internships in the Valley specifically.
Yeah, I don't know if you can hear me well, but I think it has been answered. It's also a little bit about the financial things, but I think you just have to give as many documents and you can, I don't know, do paychecks and then we'll see. So
yeah, okay, all right, well,
in principle you get a salary, right, sort of, so it's more like an additional help to have a comfortable life, but if you have the minimum of 3,000, you should be also able to live in a decent way, right?
Sure. You were also like, I don't know if it's just me, but the sound is a little.
I think post the question in the chat. Otherwise, I think we'll set up a communication line with the students for Maggie specifically.
Sure.
So then if you do have any remaining questions about the Dutch2USA Internship Program, then we can tackle it from there. Okay, all right. So I see Deborah wanting to say something. No, I'm good. Okay, all right. Well, I think let's carry on. So we also got some questions related to internships in the Valley directly. So I think we'll kick that off now. And the first one is, when do you expect to match the first students? So we have actually started the matching process already. We've already submitted some resumes to a few companies. So that is well underway. We are hoping, as it's company dependent, unfortunately, so it's a bit of a blurry answer that I'll have to answer. Give us an answer. But we are hoping to at least have students leave by spring 2022. So if you work that back, that means the contract needs to be signed or negotiated, signed, and then the visa process started and ended. So it will be coming up soon that we're expecting the first matches. Right. The second question is how many candidates are interested in the same type of internship? So that might be data science, software engineering, and Deborah will tackle that. Or am I talking? No.
You can take this one, Michelle.
Yeah, no worries. All right. So sorry about that. So yeah, we already gave you an overview of the breakdown of fields of interest that our candidate pool is made out of. That is as much as we can kind of share with you at this point. Obviously, people in data science, if we have a lot of them, there will be a few more positions. But in general, in a lot of cases, there'll be very specific positions, and then you will stand out because of the minor or the extracurricular job that you took. That'll more likely be relevant for our matching process. All right. So on the website, it states that the company of interest only accepts interns for the summer period. How strict is that timeline, or is there room for negotiation? That is, again, company dependent. The bigger the company, the more strict they are in the timeline, but with everything, there's a negotiation room. So yeah, we'll have to take that as it comes with the company, but I would never say there's no wiggle room. So let's see how it goes. If it is a summer period, let's see if we can figure something out. But again, it will be company dependent at that point.
It also depends on what the company is looking for. Some companies exclusively hire interns for summer internships. Some in our portfolio do, some others don't. I think it's about a 50-50 divide. And then maybe if I can also add to that, I've also seen some questions pop up in the chat here as well of realistically, what are my chances of being matched and how does that go also with the bigger firms and companies? So we do prioritize students from the selection pool, so you over the other students that are currently on our waiting list. And then also with regard to the bigger companies, so a lot of the bigger tech companies like a Google are restricted to hiring students for summer internships only. So that's already one maybe hurdle for many of you. Secondly, is a lot of these summer internships are dedicated specifically for students at US universities. So that might also be a hurdle. And then thirdly, a lot of these bigger companies also organize their own internship programs. So we do work with a few of these bigger companies, like for example, LinkedIn we have on board, but that can also give you a bit of understanding if in your own independent outreach, you notice that the bigger companies are holding back a bit, that gives you that context of why that may be the case. So we are working on getting a few more of those bigger ones signed up as well, but it might be that those are only open for summer internships. Back to you, Michelle.
All right, no, perfect. The next question is there a maximum number of times one's resume will be shared with companies? Deborah, will you answer that?
Sure. So maximum times, yes, will be 5. We will inform you after we have shared your resume 3 times. You will also be put in the loop as soon as we've heard positive responses back from companies with regard to your application. At any point in time, you can check in with us and ask about the status of your application, how many companies you've been proposed to. So maximum on our end will be 5 different companies that we will plug your resume with.
Yeah, actually, so I was going to add, but Flor, will you raise your hand?
Yeah, I was just wondering, why is there a maximum number? What's the reason for that?
So it's mainly just because we can't focus you on repeatedly focus on one student. If one student hasn't been proposed at all, since we're all in the matching pool together, we then need to focus on those students from then on. So that's the idea.
Agreed. And also because, it might be that your skill set is amazing, but might turn out not to be the best match for a lot of Bay Area companies, or it might be that on paper, your resume looks perfect, but it might be that there's some other reasons why companies are hesitant to maybe hire you in that particular any of you, that could happen. So at that point, we will also have a check-in with you to see what the difficulty might be, and we will make sure to communicate with you via email. But also to, you know, give all students a fair chance. If we've put in 5 applications for you, that's already a lot of effort on our team. And that's why we also encourage you to do proactive outreach yourselves to enhance your chances. I do expect that we won't have to plug your resumes 5 times though. I have good hopes that you are so excellent that we'll get you a fit sooner.
Yeah, I guess then it's also one of the questions was, can I already reach out to companies regardless of whether you've received information, whether we've shared your resume or not. We encourage you, if you have if you have the time, the effort to already reach out to companies and start that first outreach, that only increases your chances, right? So I'd encourage you to do that already. To be very clear, we're going to be, as soon as we share a resume with you, we'll tell you so you'll have a very good idea of where we are with your application. Again, always touch base with us otherwise. And then as soon as we've communicated or shared a resume 3 times with a company, then we'll also reach out to you and say, hey, this is the situation on our side. If you'd like to put in some effort and share and try to connect with companies, then please do so. And I also will just remind you that this is also a pilot project for us. This all is kind of new. So this is how we've decided we'll start off, at least initially. All right, I see another raised hand. So Samantha, go ahead.
Hello. I think I'm hearing some contradicting things, because you said it's good to reach out to companies because it will increase your chances of getting hired. But in the comments, someone said that you can only reach out to companies that are not already matched with the internships in the Valley program. So this only counts for other companies.
Indeed. Yeah. Thank you, Samantha, for that question. Very good question. We have already ongoing confirmations from our host companies, what they're looking for, the ones that are in our portfolio, and they've already been fully onboarded in the process. If you bring in a new company by means of your proactive outreach, then we as a program after will still need to do an intake conversation with that company to also see if they qualify as a talent partner for our program. That means, do they have a manager that will be there for you? Is there a physical location where you will be doing your internship, so you're not in your room all the time and it's not a fully remote internship? Are they willing to pay you the minimum amount that we're asking for, and all other categories? So we will also need to do a special intake with that company. And then in addition to that, during the J1 visa process, it might be that the CIEE also still has a check-in with that company as well. So the ones that we are in contact with already that are on our website, please let us focus on that part. If you chime in there as well, the companies might get confused and you might actually lessen your chances by getting hired at one of these companies. But any company that is not mentioned on our website, go for it. I would definitely encourage you to do that. Does that clarify that for you?
Yes, thank you.
Skip the question there.
I'll take this one quickly, Michelle. Yeah. So how can you influence the list of companies your resumes are going to be shared with? We already asked you in the initial application, also in the Google form, what types of companies are you looking for? What types of internships are you looking for? So we do take that information into consideration when proposing your resumes. And then cover letters are not necessary at this point in time. It's Silicon Valley. This might sound superficial, but it is true. Time is money. If we send resumes to a company, we first want them to have a look at your skill set. And then if they require more information or if they require a motivation letter from you, then we will let you know at that point in time. But there's no need to tailor your resume to one particular company or the other. We're really focused on your skill set.
Great. Just very briefly, so is there an online page with the detailed step-by-step of the funding scholarship opportunities for this program? So at the moment, we just refer to the NAF and their Dutch2USA Internship program, and that's as much as far as we go for now. If you'd specifically like more details about funding opportunities, you can always start the conversation with us. but at the moment, that's as much as we offer online. The next question, Deborah.
Yes, if students with a Dutch or non-Dutch nationality receive the same help or support with the visa process. For our program, we really target all students at Dutch research universities. So in terms of the selection and in terms of the matchmaking, you will definitely receive the same support. When it comes to the J1 visa process, we will also put you in touch with Maggie. Maggie, would you like to add anything to this question at this point?
No, nothing else to add to that. I agree with what you just said.
Thank you.
And the next one, are there ways how I can help to speed up the matching? So we've already chatted around about it already, but more directly is, so we'll be sharing a short text that you can introduce yourself to companies that are not in our talent partner pool yet, portfolio. So that's one way that you could be proactive and be matched with a company. Otherwise, just be responsive, share your CV as quickly as possible with us. If we have a question, please, can you answer as quickly as possible by email? As soon as that line of communication is fast as well, that obviously speeds up the process. Don't know if you have anything to add to that, Deborah? No, all good. All right, then let's get to the next one.
Yeah, how long did the matching process take on average for students in the past from first interview to offer? So anywhere from within, I would say, very quickly, maybe from first interview to offer very quickly, maybe 2 weeks in the past. And then on average, I would say about a month up to 6 weeks.
Great. Next question is, so how will you decide which profiles will be sent to a company after they've sent an internship opening? So we look at your profiles, we have a good idea from your application. So those are a lot of your short answer questions that you've submitted, as well as your CV. Based on that, we have a look at the position, your extracurriculars, your minors, obviously your studies and your skill set, look at all those together and come up with a bunch of resumes to share with companies. That then gets sent to the company initially, after which they decide which ones they want to take forward for an interview. All right, last question.
Is there an indication of the preferred duration and start period of each company and startup? Not necessarily, because within each company, there's also multiple managers and multiple teams, and those teams might also have different positions to be plugged in at different points in time. So it's not an easy going answer. I think you could say that the bigger companies within our portfolio, like a LinkedIn, like an Applied Materials, are predominantly, but not exclusively, but predominantly also looking at summer internships. But again, also with flexibility for start dates and not. With regard to duration, I think a lot of companies want to have a student for minimum 1 month and are really hoping for students for 3 up to 6 months on average. And then the maximum duration is up to 1 year.
All right, and with that, we have reached the end of our pre-submitted questions. So now there are 10 minutes left for you to ask us anything. I think at this point, it will be quickest if you just raise your hand and then we can take it in order. Perfect. Rahel, kick it off.
Yeah, I had it in the chat already, but haven't seen the answer. So I understood correctly that this Dekker grant is completely decoupled from the internship in the Valley program itself. So theoretically, we could either be matched and also be actually accepted for the Dekker program, and then also the other way around, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Dutch2USA exists at the NAF no matter what. So we've had plenty of people who have not been part of internships at the Valley apply and get a grant from us.
Okay.
Perfect. Aisha?
Yes, my question is internships in the Valley only reaching out to the companies mentioned on the website for the five times your CV is sent, or in order not to contact the same company twice, because we've also provided the program with suggestions with companies that we like, and we can also reach out to companies ourselves in order, that it stays like clear for the companies.
Good question. Thank you, Aisha. So we will reach out to the ones currently in our portfolio, and we will also let you know once we have sent your resume to one of the companies that is on your list, we will be in touch with you. I think the other way around, what would be helpful for us is if you also send us an email with the companies that you intend to contact yourselves or that you have already contacted. So let's just keep that clear line of communication there. I think that would be very useful. I also see, I received a direct message. Federica is unable to raise her hand, but Federica, here.
Yes, exactly. I have a couple of questions, actually. The first one is, because I'm more interested in an internship that will last more than 6 months, because as I've stated in the Google form, I would like to do my master thesis in a company, but even though this won't be possible, I would still, of course, like to do the internship, but for a longer period of time. So I was wondering, does that that choice influences the way you send out my resume? Like, would you send it out to positions also for shorter periods of time, or only focusing on requests that require a longer stay?
Yeah, we would mainly target companies of which we know that they're not exclusively looking for shorter period summer internships, but we will also check in with the companies. And very often, I mean, Federica, we know your resume pretty well. You have an amazing skill set. Any company would be happy to have you on board. So I would not be too worried about that. I think a lot of companies will also be flexible to accommodate you if they see what you have to offer. Did you have other questions, Federica?
Yes, just quickly, because so my partner, he's American. He has several friends in San Francisco, and I was talking to him about the income, because as I was saying, I'm a little bit like not concerned, but like I'm testing like how the income situation would be, and is like around $3,000 enough to find like a accommodation, or because like one of his friends, for example, is renting a place for $3,000, but then of course that's an apartment, so it's different from what a student or like an intern will look for, because maybe you can find shared room.
Yeah.
But how is more or less?
Good question. So we have actually prepared a brochure with all of this information that also gives you a detailed breakdown of your financial of any financial commitments here in the Bay Area. You know, how much will you spend a month, for example, on food? How much will you spend on average on transportation, on rent, and all of that? So we have detailed breakdown, and we only send that to students once they have been matched. So you also have, you know, that resource available to you. Based on that, we have decided to ask our host companies for a minimum of, from my mind, $3,000 a month. It should definitely be possible to do a lot on that budget, but it also depends on how picky you are. I live in a 2-bedroom apartment and I have a lot of space, but I'm also a bit further out of the city center. I'm at the ocean and I pay $3,200 a month. So it is definitely possible to find a good location with limited resources if you're willing to also look at other locations geographically within the city. I would say on average, our students often share an apartment. And I would say on average, the price of a room, depending on the neighborhood that you look at, ranges from $1,200 to $1,800 a month. So also depending on the features that you want your room to have in a shared apartment. And then studios go on average, I would say, for about $1,800 to about $2,500 a month, depending on amenities and location.
Okay, thank you very much.
Did you want to add anything to that? I saw you unmuted yourself.
Me? No, it's okay. That might have been an accident.
Great. Ramon, I see you've also raised your hand.
Yes. So when reaching out to other companies, do you recommend us to send multiple emails to multiple companies at the same time, or await a response before moving on to the next one?
I would definitely target multiple ones. I think don't put all your eggs in one basket. That's also the way that applications and the value work. So feel free to reach out to multiple companies at the same time. Then if I can circle back to your question one more time, Federica, $3,000 is a comfortable starting base for your negotiations, but very often the companies will pay you considerably more than that. So just so you know that. Any other questions?
Right.
Could I ask something? And do you hear me well now or not?
Yeah, go ahead. I can hear you.
Okay, great. I wonder, do you only apply for open roles in companies, or do you also do sort of like an open solicitation? That's what we call it here. Yeah. That you just contact them and see if they find us so interesting that they would be willing to create an option, or only if there is an open role?
I would do both. I would do about 50-50 in your outreach to companies. I would apply for a particular role, but I would also via LinkedIn send out your resume as part of an open application. Also, when we contact our host companies, we often have already very particular internship roles, but then we feel that some students might actually be great fits outside of these roles. We also send their resumes, and very often then the company is also interested in interviewing those students and creating an internship position. So I would say 50-50. Any other questions, Larissa? Because I know your button also doesn't work.
Yeah, I wondered, do you know anything about when usually summer internship close on at the companies?
Yeah, summer internships are typically from any time from mid-May up to mid-September. And then I would say most often June up until end of August. End of August is when most universities in the US have resumed their courses again as well.
Okay, and maybe I wasn't clear. I meant like when the matching for the company stops for the summer internships.
Oh, I would say the summer internships we're really actively looking at right now as well. Placing students for the summer internships, also spring internships. I think, it depends a bit on the company, but if you want to have enough time to also get your J1 visa process started in time, then I would say beginning of April would be a good date to determine if you're also flexible with regard to your start date. If you could also maybe do an internship in the fall. I also have a question from David. David.
Thank you.
Question regarding the procedure of the interviews. So let's say, for example, LinkedIn is interested in me and they invite me for an interview. At least that's what I hope. How does this procedure exactly work? Like, is it exactly the same as an external person wants to apply for this internship role, or is it different? Does it work differently for us since we're like selected and you're partnered with LinkedIn?
Yeah, so if it's companies that are currently already part of our internship pool, that should give you a competitive edge because they also know that you've gone through rigorous selection procedure. But ultimately, that depends on the company and that depends on the manager as well. So I can't give you an all-exclusive answer on that one.
No, that's fair. All right.
Thank you, David. Noah, and I think we'll do 3 more questions and then we'll have to wrap it up. So Noah, take it away.
Yeah, so if you've shared a CV with some company, you'll be informed, but when will we be informed of the content of the internship, of the role, etc.?
Yeah, at that point in time. So before you are onboarded for an interview process, we will make sure to provide you with the details of what the company is looking for, so you can also prepare accordingly. Good question, Noah. Other questions? Savas?
Yes. Hi. So my question is, how many people do they hire these companies? Let's say Shell. Are they looking for many students, or is it just one?
Depends. We have some companies in our portfolio that are hiring up to 5 of our interns. We have others that have committed to taking on 1. So again, depends.
All right. And I have another question, actually. I'm not sure if
Yeah, sure.
It's possible. So I'm quite flexible with as to the start date of my internship, and so I was just curious to know because on this Google form I just put in January as a start date, but I'm not sure if it will, if it I forgot the word
it
for
won't
it.
be in your disadvantage that you put
Disadvantage,
it shows your flexibility on our end. If we fear that you have a very strict starting date and that we might have missed a boat, then we will reach out with you. We won't put you on our non-active list without being in touch with you first.
All right. Sure, sounds good.
Thank you.
So we look at your skill set and your background rather than your preference for start dates. We assume that you'll be flexible enough as a get-go, and then once we reached out to you and maybe that is an issue, then we'll take it up with you.
Sure, sounds good. Thanks.
I also see a question from Munir.
We can't hear you, I think. I can see that you are trying
We'll circle back to you, Munir, in 2 minutes, so you can figure out your audio. Chiab, you also had a question.
Yeah, I was wondering, what if you don't hear anything? When would it be an appropriate time to send an email and ask about the status or what you could do to improve your chances?
We are available at any time, so you can reach out to us at any time. In order to give you a bit of insight into the matchmaking process, we started sending out the first batch of resumes last week, and we send out multiple ones every week. I would say that we are planning to send out minimum 20 every week to different companies as well. So feel free to be in touch with us, I would say in a month's time. If you haven't heard anything from us, I think in a month, definitely feel free to drop us an email. Good question.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Munir, let's try again. We can't hear you, but maybe you can put your question in the chat and we can also get back to you via email.
Yeah, in terms of interest in time, I think maybe that'll also be our last question. Yeah, all right.
Maybe Deborah, you could answer the question about mentioning your mother tongue on the resume, if that's considered appropriate.
Yeah, you can do that. You can do that. You can add it as a skill basically, and then you add your languages that you master, and then you can see how you do that. You can put excellent, you can put very good, you can put native language. That is definitely okay to do. Yeah.
Right. I think let's wrap up. If we have not answered any of your questions, please just send us an email. You will be receiving 2 things from us after this webinar, technically 3. So one is that letter that you can then reach out with to companies that are not on our partner list. And then the next is the Google form link so that you can send an updated CV so that we have that. And then the last is the webinar recording so that you can look at this again. And yeah, that's it. Thank you so much for your questions. If you have some more, then we can stick around for a minute or so, but otherwise feel free to leave. And if anyone has any last words, team? No, all good. All right, then yeah, let's wrap it up. If you have, I see there's one raised hand. You're more than welcome to ask that now quick, Chiab, but I'm not sure if that was just Zoom being Zoom. It's Zoom being Zoom. All right.
Yeah, I think it's
all
Zoom
good.
being Zoom.
Yeah, no, it just keeps on reminding me. So I was wondering about that. But anyway, I think then we'll wrap it up. Perfect. And I think we'll stop the recording here as well.